Hi guys, it's Mads. What's up? And welcome back to my cringy channel. Today's video is going to be quite different from the title. I'm starting a new series and it's going to be True Crime and Makeup Mondays. This new series takes heavy inspiration from the one and only Bailey Sarian, as well as a few other YouTubers that I watch when it comes to true crime and makeup. If you know me and you're part of my social circles, you know that I am forever watching true crime, especially Bailey Sarian on Mondays. I am completely aware that I've been hella absent, and if you know me well, you know that content creation has always been on my mind. It's one of my biggest goals. I know it might be really unachievable considering how saturated YouTube is, but it's been one of my goals for forever. Like, I mean forever. Like, I was 9 making YouTube videos about my summer camp forever. That is incredibly embarrassing, but
hey guys, it's me, Maddie.
if you want to see my face on your screen, make sure to hit the links on my channel or down in the description below. Stream on Twitch 24/7, and I also have an Instagram you should go check out, even though I deleted all my posts because, you know, I'm having a crisis, you know. I love that for me. Without further ado, grab a snack or your makeup bag and let's get into it. Also, I feel like it's fairly noted that I should give you a trigger warning, so here it is. Graphic descriptions of extensive discussion of self-harming behaviors such as suicide, self-inflicted injuries. Your discretion is advised. I don't look good, but we're working on it. New hair, who this? But hello, hi. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Ellie Gould case. If you're not familiar with this case, it happened about a couple months ago in the UK, and it was pretty much on the news everywhere. Ellie Gould was born on the 6th of February 2002, so we're basically the same age, thinking about it. We're born the same year, and from what I can gather, she was the only child. And so she lived in a beautiful little town called Calne in Wiltshire with her mom and dad. Like I said, she was my age, so she lived at home. And from the information that I gathered, first of all, Calne, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry for butchering this, was a very friendly and beautiful place. If you look it up on Google, it is so adorable. It's a cute little town. I think it has quite the population, but like, it's out there. Like, it's really, there's a lot of fields, a lot of farms, but it's very pretty. I think I'm gonna use the Morphe palette. Look how pretty it is. So growing up, Ellie was really into horses, and she went as far as to even compete in events, and she wanted to go to nationals, as well as she competed in cross country, which is a lot for her age, but she was really invested into sports and things of that such. So she also had ambitions to join the mounted police and study psychology in university when she got there. Growing up, it was said that Ellie was really close to all of her cousins, but specifically her cousin Jess. Her uncle really emphasized that.
So being that exact month apart, inevitably we were very close because we were so close in age, and also kind of the two only girls, like within the cousins, and we also just got on really well.
They were like sisters. It was almost like we had twins in the family. And from day one, they were as thick as thieves. Even before they could start crawling, you'd put them in their car seats together and they'd sit there and they'd be talking in baby language, totally gabbling away in baby language with each other.
So around the time of her death, Ellie was in grade 12 or 12th year in her case. Like I said, they're from the UK, so there is a lot of difference in grades and stuff when it comes to school. But she was in the 12th grade. She was studying for her A-levels, and she was a 6th form student at this school. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I've already butchered enough of this story. So in the beginning of school, she made friends quite easily with the girls that were in her class. They all decided to sit together and they formed a group of 4 friends in total. And as the year progressed, they got extremely close. For prerequisites, I do not have anything on my neck. I just scratched it way too much, and eventually, when the school year progressed, her and her friends started to open up their friend group a little more, and they started hanging out with some boys. So in early 2019, Ellie celebrated her 17th birthday with a bunch of friends. And in January of that year, she started dating a boy in that friend group. It's said that she'd known this boy for quite some time, and actually they've been friends since year 6, so 6th grade. They had liked each other, and everybody knew that they liked each other, and there wasn't really any romance in their friend group aside from them liking each other off and on. But in grade 12 or year 12, this is when they decided to actually date each other. Her friend Tilda would describe their friendship as quite the weird on and off thing, because they had known each other for so long but didn't date for quite some time. And so towards the ending of the year, as her exams approached, Ellie didn't want a relationship anymore. She felt like a relationship was way too much for her, so she decided to end it with Tom, or Thomas. His name was Thomas, but he was commonly known as Tom. So she decided to end it with him after dating him for about 3 months. She felt like the relationship wasn't right for her, and she wanted to focus on her studies, hang out with her friends, and that's all really that she wanted. But Tom, on the other hand, was very, very relationship orientated, and that's kind of what he was looking for. Like, he wasn't really too pressed with school. So she ended it in early May. That Thursday night, she had posted something on her Snapchat in regards to breaking up with him. Publicly, she had posted it to her friends or something. You know how Snapchat is, like, you can pick and choose who you decide to share things with. So that was Thursday night, and I think she broke up with him on Thursday or Wednesday. It was kind of iffy on which day she actually broke up with him on, but I know that she posted something on Thursday on Snapchat saying, "Oh, I'm so relieved that me and so-and-so aren't dating anymore." So that Friday morning, Ellie would usually do her routine, you know, eating, waking up for breakfast, the usual for her. But that day, there was nothing that she needed to go in for. It was kind of like a PA day. So she was going to stay home and revise, and her mom usually went to work, and her mom went to work. Everything was good. She was going to stay home alone and revise the work that she usually does at school with her teacher and, you know, regular school. I do not like this black. I really should not have even. She had made plans with her other friend Ellie, and Ellie decided that it would be a great idea to have her other friend Ellie come pick her up, and they go revise, you know, homework. So she had texted her friend Ellie, and she was like, "Hey, can you pick me up at 12 p.m.? And so her and Ellie were gonna drive into school together. So around 3 p.m. that afternoon, Ellie's mom receives a call from her husband, Ellie's dad. And the call itself was very sporadic. I don't think they have any recordings of it, but basically her father had called her mother at work and basically explaining that there's been an accident, that you need to rush home, you have to come now. So obviously Ellie's mom gets in her car, rushes home as fast as she can, but unfortunately her road is blocked off by police, so she has to stop her car. So she comes into the house, and there is her husband, and explains that there had been an accident of some sort and that her daughter Ellie has sadly passed away. I also want to mention that around 3 p.m. He didn't just call his wife, he also called the authorities. So by the time that the wife got there, paramedics had already been on the scene. There was so much blood everywhere that they came to the conclusion that resuscitation is not gonna, that she had been dead for about 3 hours. So at that point they couldn't resuscitate her. But beforehand, before any calls had been made, her dad showed up around the house around 3 p.m. He was done work, comes home, and so he finds Ellie in the kitchen face down in a pool of blood, with her right hand over to her shoulder holding a knife that was punctured into her neck. So it was noticeably made to look like she had like put self-inflicted wounds on herself, but it was so noticeable that it looked incredibly fake. Like, it looked like somebody had placed her hand there with a knife. And like I said, paramedics arrived on the scene, and they had came to the conclusion, along with the investigators, like the crime scene investigators, that she'd been laying on that floor for almost up to 4 hours. And the nature of her injuries were so far gone that they said that even a skilled surgeon would have struggled to save her life. So immediately questioning began with her parents, her friends, and anybody, you know, around her social circle, because they wanted to see what happened. So immediately questioning began with her parents. They asked her, you know, who is your daughter's friends? What's her social circle look like? You know, does she have a boyfriend? You know, all of this, all the common questions you would ask somebody involved in, I mean, at this point it was ruled an accident. They also asked if, you know, she struggled with mental health issues, if she was depressed, and if she had ever self-harm, and if they thought that this could be, you know, self-harm at any point. And I mean, just imagine being the parents sitting there and them basically just like bringing up. Of course, her parents answered how any parent would answer. Ellie was very liked by everybody around her and at school, and she was a very popular girl. She had her small circle of friends, but she was a social butterfly, and a lot of her friends really enjoyed the fact that Ellie never changed her personality for anybody. She was a really real, authentic person, and she was very bright, bubbly, and positive. So they quickly shut that down, and soon her whole investigation became a homicide. It was ruled a homicide, and that's how they decided to proceed the next couple chapters. Her parents were convinced it was an accident, like, you know, maybe she was, you know, putting a fork in the toaster and it electrocuted her. So they started piecing together, courtesy of her friends and screenshots from Tom's social media from her friends, to the investigators, that she had just broken up with Tom. So, like, immediately in the investigators' heads, they're piecing together that she had just broken up with somebody, and they're probably really angry that she had broken up with them. So could you only imagine what, you know, is going through their heads, what's going through the parents' heads, that yeah, her ex, or Tom, you know, is a bit of a suspect right now. So as Ellie, her friend Ellie, was showing the investigators, you know, all these Snapchats from Tom, the Snapchats were kind of odd. Like, he was basically telling his friends that he was self-harming and going through a really rough time, and that was why he had scratches on his neck. And so remember that text I was telling you guys about earlier in regards to Ellie making plans with Ellie to go hang out? Well, she later in the day received a text being like, hey, don't come pick me up, I'm just gonna, you know, stay home and do my own thing. So in that moment when she was, you know, making all these screenshots for the investigators, you know, showing them everything about how Tom was saying that he was self-harming and stuff, because they're pretty deep in the investigation, she had made the correlation in her head, and she was like, you know, he probably went over there to reconciliate with Ellie. Like, he was trying to get her back, you know, like, he went over to her house trying to get her back. That's probably what he did, because at this point it was known to everybody, especially news outlets, that Tom was a suspect, because they couldn't get a hold of him. When they finally caught up with him, they got to see the scratches on his neck themselves, and that quickly became like, why do you have scratches on your neck? Like, why do you have scratches on your neck? Like, police also soon that he matched the description that the neighbors gave about the slender boy with brown hair. And so they're talking to him for a couple hours. His alibis are just not sticking. So the alibi he ended up sticking with at the end of the day was that in the morning, his mom dropped him off at school like normal, and that his mom dropped him off, he went inside, stayed for a little, and left. And apparently he left because he wasn't feeling well. And so he decided, instead of calling his mom from work, that he was just gonna take the bus home. He didn't realize that his mom had actually planned that day to come back early, around 10:15. And so when she did, he hid in the closet from her for a little bit. And that's why when they asked his mom, like, hey, did you know that he came home? She was like, nah, I don't know that he came home, because she, in all realness, did not know that he was home because he hid in a closet from her. Like, that's hella suspicious, in my opinion. And so they quickly realized that there was time differences in his alibi. He said he was here at, you know, 10:15. He had shut off his phone for about an hour. Around 10:50, they were able to track his phone, and so he arrived at Ellie's house at 10:53, so 3 minutes, and left at 11:52, so exactly about an hour. When he got home, it showed that he logged on his phone about like 10 centimeters from his house, so almost like on a porch, but on the back of his house. And they had forensic people go and, you know, check that shit out. Like, why are you logging on like 15 like steps away from your house? That was kind of weird. It was kind of sus. And so they go, they check it out, and they find a garbage bag with bloody cloth and things that he used to wipe his hands. They go and check that out to see if it was Ellie's blood, and of course it's Ellie's blood. So now they're like, okay, what happened? What happened? What happened? Like, you're lying to us. We know you're lying to us. So they got evidence on him, and they charged him. They still did not have a reason behind the murder aside from, you know, they suspected that he was mad because of the breakup. And so they prepared for a not guilty trial. And at this time, they did not have enough evidence to say that it was a planned murder or to charge him with a planned murder, like a premeditated murder, and did not expect him to whatsoever plead to being guilty. But in the end, he did decide to plead guilty and decided to tell why and how he killed her. Based on the evidence, detectives came to the conclusion Tom strangled Ellie. Then he began to stab her in the neck area multiple times. He then cleaned the knife, placed it in her hand, put her right hand over, and then inserted the knife into her neck once again to make it look like it was a self-inflicted wound, to make it kind of look like she did everything to herself. That was his way of kind of covering it up in a sense. Then he removed the DNA from the handle and he took all those things, put them in the garbage bag, took those with him, left the scene in his car. I think it was his mom's car. Then he went back, and then that's when we saw that he turned on his phone 15 steps away from his house kinda and threw that bag in the ditch, and that's where they found all the evidence that kind of locked it in. And so in August, that's when he pled guilty and gave a completely different set of events that happened. He said that she had invited him over to study, and that they were studying and they started arguing about something like family-wise, that he doesn't remember what happened, but he does remember strangling her and then coming to it at the end when Ellie had been stabbed. And when it came down to sentencing, the judge had concluded that he was a child under the state because he had no prior convictions. He was sentenced to life with minimum 12 years time served, and he was also eligible for parole. You can just imagine the parents and how they feel that they find out that this ex-boyfriend gets off with a slap on the wrist, essentially. And so because of all this outrage, her parents and her community had decided that they are going to create a law called Ellie's Law, and it was a campaign launched by friends in her community to have self-defense classes in all schools. And it was debated for quite some time in Parliament, and I think it still is being debated, but basically her mother, Carol, campaigned to have the law changed to enable young offenders to be treated more like adults when serious crimes are committed, like murder. So I think for my first case, this is definitely a little bit of a heavy one. If you want to see my face on your screen, make sure to hit the links on my channel or down in the description. I stream on Twitch 24/7, and I also have an Instagram you should go check out, even though I deleted all my posts because, you know, I'm having a crisis, you know. I love that for me.